Let's do some more sound. I want to talk about the what's happening in the Caribbean. This is really significant. So there's been a flurry of stories, and primarily I want to prop Telesur. They're covering this very well, and we're certainly covering this obviously extensively on TMBS. But I think it's very important that a bigger audience get this. First, let's start with the positive. The Cuban doctors are extraordinary. And Cuba's deployment of medicine internationally is definitely one of the heroic and important stories of the time. And let's just play a brief 30-second clip from Telesur English about from a couple days ago of a new wave of Cuban doctors deploying to Italy. Now, at the same time, and we'll get to this in a second, Venezuela, under extreme economic warfare from the United States and even kind of new ship positioning in the Caribbean, is actually sharing some of its testing kits with its Caribbean neighbors. This goes back to the CARICOM initiative in some respects of Hugo Chavez, which was very significant and a major reason and led to U.S. intervention not only in Venezuela, but in Haiti as well. All this juxtaposed with that the United States is blocking the shipment of ventilators to Caribbean nations. Ventilators have now been diverted from getting to Barbados and Jamaica. So this is the context of just pure piracy by the Trump administration and this extraordinary solidarity from Cuba, which we'll play first. Just check the video itself. Maybe the video itself is not on.
Is it not playing?
No, it's just the sound isn't playing. Check the video.
It's playing on my end.
A second group of Cuban doctors has arrived in Italy. They arrived on Monday morning at the Turin-Casei airport to collaborate in the fight against COVID-19. The latest team of Henry Reeve medical specialists was greeted by the city's mayor and other authorities. The first medical brigade from Cuba arrived on March 22nd and worked at an emergency field hospital in Crema Lombardi to support local hospitals which had been over capacity.
Now, this is happening at the same time, and now we're going to play a clip from Ralph Gonzalez. Do we have that up, guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get that up on screen. This is talking about the pressure on Venezuela and what they are doing in the context of U.S. positioning now and still delivering to their Caribbean neighbors. Again, even as the United States is diverting resources from some of the smallest and most vulnerable nations in the world. This is Ralph Gonzalez.
We read the newspapers, we read the reports. In some countries, there's a level of banditry in the seizure of vital materials that civilized peoples are looking on with sorrow and some in anger at this level of banditry. But I only mention that in a sense as a footnote. What we have to celebrate is the solidarity. I want us to get this. Venezuela is in a very difficult economic position. Venezuela is in a political situation with threats to its independence and sovereignty, where there are forces in our hemisphere threatening regime change and seeking to undermine lawful authority in Venezuela, creating the circumstances of facilitating a condition for social and political unrest. Venezuela has its own challenges with COVID-19. They have been able to acquire a certain number of the rapid tests, these kits, and also the reagents. And instead of keeping all for themselves, they are sharing with us and Dominica and Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda.
So this is the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, who along with Mia Mottley in Barbados and Prime Minister Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago have been incredibly courageous across a whole slew of issues. And Gonsalves also happily welcomed Cuban doctors and talked about how it fit into a broader history of South-South cooperation and the fight for sovereignty in the context of U.S. hegemonic interests. But just to really underscore, Venezuela, who the Trump administration is waging a maximum economic war on now, is actually sharing resources with the Caribbean, while the United States is apparently pursuing, under the Trump administration, an active policy of diverting resources from the Caribbean. And you can look on this as it extensively reported. It started a bit over a week ago with a shipment of ventilators to Barbados. So I just want to really signal the incredible courage of that leadership, the importance of Caribbean solidarity, and how it also fits into the ongoing U.S. efforts at regime change and disruption in Venezuela, but also efforts in Nicaragua and Cuba as well.
Yeah, but screw Bernie for ever saying anything nice about Cuba, right?
Oh yeah, that definitely the worst thing ever. To have to speak like an adult about Cuba. All right.